Thanks for calling Retro Refresh, where you can pre-order your copy of Toe Jammin' Earl 3 for the Xbox. What can I do for you?
Hey, what's up, man? I was wondering if you guys had a copy of Panzer Dragoon Orta on the Xbox.
Hey, wait a minute. Aren't you that one guy from that YouTube gaming channel?
Listen, can you just look and see if you have a copy?
Hey, kick off your shoes and relax your socks. The computer says we got one copy left.
Alright, cool. You guys still deliver, right?
Sure do.
Perfect,
This game is supposed to be pretty awesome. Something about dragons, it just gets my dick hard, you know?
You know, as a matter of fact, I do.
Alright, kid, I'll see you in about 10 minutes or less.
Thanks.
And I would like to remind you as a delivery customer that it is not required to tip, but is much appreciated.
The Panzer Dragoon series was published by Sega and developed by Team Andromeda. The games take place on a post-apocalyptic planet, say that 3 times fast, where people compete for land, resources, and the technology of the Ancients. The Ancients is a generic name given to the people that once controlled a world-spanning hyper-advanced civilization thousands of years before the start of the Panzer Dragoon series of games. And these Ancients were able to create monsters that were either used for war or practical use in their world. It all started in 1995 with the first 2 games being released for the franchise, one exclusively on Sega Saturn, and the second, believe it or not, was a Tiger Electronic R-Zone game, which is not canon and it's its own standalone game. 1 year later, in 1996, 2 more games were added to the series, with Panzer Dragoon 2 for the Sega Saturn and Panzer Dragoon Mini for the Sega Game Gear, which was only released in Japan, and was a faithful adaptation given the technical limitations of the Game Gear. 2 years later, in 1998, Panzer Dragoon Saga was also released for the Sega Saturn and took a different approach to the series and focused less on rail shooting and more on open world exploration with RPG mechanics such as random encounters and turn-based combat. And finally, 5 years later, we reach Panzer Dragoon Orta that was released only on Xbox early 2003 in North America. It was developed by Smilebit, which had been founded by former members of Team Andromeda, the original developers for the Panzer Dragoon games. It's been approximately 17 years since Panzer Dragoon Orta was released, so let's see if it still holds up. The plot of this game is the Empire has returned to power using the technology of the Ancients, remember that from our history lesson, to genetically engineer dragon-like bioengineered weapons called dragon mares. A young girl named Orta has lived her whole life in a tower in the valley, imprisoned by nomadic seekers who fear she is the harbinger of doom. One night, the Empire attacks the valley with dragon mares, destroying much of the city. Before the dragon mares can harm Orta, a mysterious dragon appears and eliminates them. Now that she is free, Orta has to defend herself from the forces of this oppressive empire.
Now, if I'm being honest, I really don't care too much about the story of this game. It's generic and it's been done a million times before. What I do care about is the inspiration and the stylized look of this game.
And the entire time playing this, I was getting a lot of vibes that reminded me a lot of Frank Herbert's Dune. Also, it's important to note that the language that's spoken by all of the characters in every single Panzer Dragoon game is called Panzerese, which was based on ancient Greek, Latin, and Russian, created by Yukio Furusugi, one of the core designers of the first game.
Laos, dino zuigo. Ena dostoro emungus insolentia Laos. Afroporestum ena karsa. Usque agora. Ena. Vascano. Laos. Omenis. Te ananki ego!
If you're familiar at all with any of the Panzer Dragoon games, you'll notice that this one has more or less the same stuff as the other ones, with a few new features. One being, instead of piloting one dragon throughout the entire game, you can morph into 3 different dragons. Each one has their own style, look, and powers.
The 3 forms are called Base, Heavy, and Glide. Rotating through all 3 of these forms is essential in every level of the game. Certain levels of the game will call for you to dodge attacks by boosting to the side, back, or front of enemies. To do this will require stamina, which you can see displayed down below in the bottom left along with your HP. And this is where the Base form and Glide form come in handy. The Base form being the most balanced of all 3 dragons, whereas the Glide form is a little bit faster than the balance, but overall doesn't have as much defense. Maybe maybe you want to sacrifice speed for power, this is where the heavy form comes in. Though it doesn't have any stamina, it will be able to take more incoming damage while being able to deal more damage to enemies. To help you determine where enemies are coming from, you can look up at the radar on the top right of the screen. This is a lifesaver because micromanaging every side of you is required.
And at times is kind of difficult because I get so distracted by how massive this game feels and how cool everything looks, and it's a big part of why this game has such a huge cult following.
Immersion, especially during the more cinematic parts of the game. It really feels like you're riding on the back of a dragon, flying through the sky, taking down giant airships and other dragons. It's pretty awesome. The soundtrack of this game also plays a huge role in the immersion factor, and it was all composed by Sayori Kobayashi and Yutaka Minobe, whose previous works include the soundtrack to the 2000 Dreamcast role-playing game Skies of Arcadia.
Level structure and progression in the Panzer Dragoon games is very by the books.
Level starts, kill small enemies, and then kill big boss, and it doesn't deviate from that formula throughout the entire game. You'll notice yourself doing the same thing, holding down the fire button, rotating the joystick to lock onto multiple targets, and dodging big attacks or a machine gun of smaller attacks. And yes, I know that's just how rail shooters are, but it's easy to see why this very niche genre was so popular over in Japan. On the surface, I do love how fantastical the boss fights feel, but 90% of them take way too long to kill. It's very exhausting, and I found myself sighing in relief after most of them.
Some are in a good way, and others make me want to pull out what little hair I have left on my head.
Alright, and the last thing that I really want to touch on with this game is Pandora's box. This is an option within the main menu screen where all of the unlockables in the game are archived, which I always find really cool when games add something like this, and it caters to people who want to dive deeper into the lore of this world, or if you're a speedrun nerd and you want to look at your numbers for each mission. So there is some sort of replayability for this game if you're into that kind of thing. Hey, would you look at that? C's and D's, just like in high school.
I'm trying not to look at this game through nostalgia-colored glasses. It was fun, and I had good memories with it, but would I recommend it? Not to everyone. It's a very niche-y game, and it's super repetitive. If you're not into that kind of thing, well, you're probably going to be bored. But I'll always have good memories with this game because it was the first Xbox game that I ever played. I spent an entire summer saving up money so I could get the console and this game. And with that being said, you guys, have you played this game before? Let me know down in the comments section, or any of the other ones. There's even the new remake out on the Switch, so if you want to get into a Panzer Dragoon game, I would start with the Switch version. It's a remake of the very first game from Sega Saturn. And that's going to do it for this episode. Thank you guys so much for watching, and tune in next time when I cover another game that was only on Xbox.
Hello person who stayed till the end of the video, thanks for watching, you're awesome. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and be sure to share it with someone who you know likes original Xbox stuff. And be sure to watch my other Only on Xbox episodes, because if you like this one, you might like those as well. There's a playlist right below. Do the right thing. Click it.